or you never learned at all? Or perhaps I didn't communicate. I see Olembe Lati there. Lawrence. I see my son here. I see Madam Rose Kudate. If you can spend a minute to say this, it will be great because we can hear a few more people.
Thank you very much. Yes, my name is Lawrence Olembelati, and from the opening remarks from Ole Simel and a presentation by Dr. Olesina, what I gathered is there is a lot of research that is happening indigenous people territories, but their findings are not well disseminated, not well shared. And I think maybe that's one of the things that we need to work on how can we make sure that it's not just a matter of doing research and getting all the information, the findings are there, but who is the consumer? Can this information reach the consumer? Can this information can be turned into policies for the government or by the government? So those are some of the things that I gathered from the previous presentation.
Thank you. A gap in documentation and dissemination. Okay. The world should know the great innovations we are doing. I want one mic on this half side and another mic here. So I had my son. I see Daktari here and I see Osman. My son is a gentleman there with a shawl, a Maasai color.
So hello everyone. My name is Maison Olenkuruna. So I think one of the key takeaways that I got from most specifically Professor Kyle White is the relationship between indigenous communities, no matter where they are geographically. He talked about so many things, and one of the key things is how wildlife, like the way he was talking about the wolves and how we, the Maasai community, have animal totems for every clan. And also he talked about fire, and our clan systems are the old Piron system, where a clan passes let's say metaphorically, fire to the next generation. So what I took from that is that we are all related as indigenous communities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We had Rose, now I see hands. Okay, and if we go that way, 1 minute, we can take a few. So Rose, and then I think it was Osman, and then Daktari Lanashoro. And then I think there we have Regan and another Mason. There are three of them and they are raising hands. I'm not sure.
One actually is a comment and one a finding. One, when it comes to the issue of land sale, what role are we playing, the elites of the Maasai community or the indigenous community? Because I believe there is a role that we are playing negatively that is affecting, because for every piece of land sold, there is an elite in it.
Okay.
That's one. Number two, I also want to appreciate that we are now realizing, we have come to our self-realization that we are able to do things for ourselves. We are not short of anybody. I think it's high time now that we came up and talked on our behalf and for ourselves. Thank you. Thank you.
We are well able, and let's not be the reason for exploitation. We had somebody sold an acre as you take the mic, and added a 0 to the 1 acre sold. What does it become? 10 acres.
Good afternoon. I was captured by the speech of Brother Josephat, the head of minorities and marginalized, who was representing the government, national government today here. He indeed challenged the academia here, the community leaders here, the gurus here, that he's having a blank white paper that is waiting something to be written on. And he challenged us that, bring what I will write on. That is something that captured my heart. Thank you very much.
Yes, the blank check, okay? Let's write the figures we want and cash it. The mic should go, I think there should be 2 mics. It was the Nashoro, the tech team. There is another mic there, unless if it is not working. One on this half, the other one to save time. I have also actually seen Kemayo there.
Good afternoon, everyone. First, I want to thank ILEPA and the organizers. For the first time, I saw the face of Arun Agrawal. When I was doing my graduate work in CSU, my first article and back of my literature review was on dismantling the divide between indigenous knowledge and scientific knowledge. My work was on positioning indigenous knowledge on climate change, the existence of the knowledge, the transmission of knowledge, and application of knowledge. My concern is, after doing all this documentation based on research and data, how much are the policy makers integrating, synergizing this knowledge in decisions and policy formulations for it to have a meaning? And this drew my attention in terms of adaptations of pastoralists to climate change. How much are we integrating their all-time knowledge on movement and breeds to the current science on how to adapt to indigenous knowledge?
Thank you, Dr. Okay. Yeah, so this table, if you can spend half a minute each, the mic can stay there because the three of you raised your hands.
Thank you.
If anyone goes beyond one, the other one will lose.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Regan Siamito. I have several takeaways, but of priority is one is that research is an instrument of power, such that you can have a very controversial research that will ignite negative results. And so when we have the indigenous-led research that has indigenous-led solutions, we'll be able to amplify their work and get the real results on the ground. So that is my takeaway. Thank you.
So I think you're saying indigenous-led research is power to ourselves, if research is an instrument of power. Maison?
Thank you. My name is Maison Kipila, and mine is a question. But before the question, I first of all want to appreciate the platform that we have been able to be given. Mine is to ask all of us as multidisciplinary and multi-sector on, because it is evident that there is a disconnect between the academia and the local and indigenous knowledge. How do we bridge that gap?
Okay. The mic should have gone to Kemayo there, the beats on the head. Gab, yes, you have your half a minute. And then I see Mrs. Marima here. I see Waziri. I see Neyolo line and a gentleman there in a beautiful suit. Not that everyone else doesn't have a beautiful suit.
So, Good afternoon. My name is Gabriel Musuni, and I'm so much glad to be here. I want to say thank you to ILEPA and Pact for such an opportunity. My takeaway is the presentation from Professor Olesena on how the indigenous community can be able to be empowered so that they can have a stake in the both social, political, and economic aspect in their lives. Also, another takeaway is about our institution here, Masai Mara University, and how they have been able to effectively put themselves in the interconnectedness of the Maasai culture, the ecosystem. And I really want to highlight, to say that they should try to put more focus on that, so that most of the indigenous young people, maybe who are interested to do their masters, their PhD, should not be doing in far areas, but also in an institution that is here. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Musuni. Mention one, leave the others for others. I had Mrs. Marima here, and then Waziri, and then Neyolo. Oh, no, sorry. Before Yeyo, Kimayo first.
Good afternoon. So I'm Elias Kimayo from Sengwer Indigenous Community who live in Embobot Forest. My quick takeaway is we need research to decolonize the researchers that has been there. For example, all the roads that government are using now are informed by colonial researchers, and that is what we need in order to come with our own indigenous research to inform policy. Without that, I think we will not get anywhere. Look, all the policies, including now the carbon.
Thank you very much, Kemayo. Let's step in and do decolonization by doing research. Yeyo, Mrs. Marima, and then Waziri, CPTEC, and then we go to Neyolo. I should be wrapping up now. Okay.
Yes, my name is Eunice Marima.
Okay, go on.
First, when I stepped in this room, I asked myself, what am I doing here? Because it was hyped, the lecturers, the professors, and I want to say I'm a village woman. So I find I am in the wrong place. However, after looking at that, officially I come from NGO world. So that's what I want to come. I am coming from that. We have learned a lot, and I want to thank all those who contributed, because each one of them who has spoken, there's something somebody has picked. So I want to ask myself, as a student of literature sometimes, Professor Galati was my teacher for a long time in high school, so the English and the what, don't bother where I got it from. But Martin Luther King, during his last time, he was at a crossroad. And so I find myself, I'm on a crossroad between the educated, between the illiterate, between the rich and the poor. So I need to ask the four W's. When are we going to accomplish something meaningful? And why are we going to go there? And who are those who are going to make us come out of Christ? When you talk about our land, and we know it is being sold and it's going like that, and the government has constitution, things that are supposed to be constitutional, protecting the people. But it's the very same government that has allowed all these things to do. Because community land, it is already what is going to protect the community land or even the family land is already enshrined in everyone's constitution. So I think we are crying over very many things. So I need to say, can I be excused so that I don't go and be sick? That I want to appreciate all those. I am not a young girl, I'm 73, so there is no thing I'm going to do. And I may not even have a reason to say I'm sorry. I want to say I need to know exactly when am I going. We have been in this battle with Samuel and everybody else. Even many of these are there, have been my children somewhere, and across East Africa. So Ileba, I need to ask you, if you have a capacity and you have been blessed to have access and good name among people, you need to transform the position of the indigenous people all over the world. Because there was a time I was in Geneva, and we were having something to do with pastoralists and everything else. And I saw the Red Indian. They were crying the way I was crying like a Maasai. When I was talking about the Maasai child having no education equal to others. The Red Indians. So where do you stop the crying of the indigenous?
Okay, thank you, Yayo, for calling us to action. We won't continue crying. We are gathered to act together. Thank you. Thank you. Waziri?
Okay. Mine is a takeaway assignment. And you'll allow me even to talk in Kimasai. Etejoyava kitio sena kajina diola yuni. Now, we have very many young men who have gone to school, they get educated, they do their masters, but when they come back home, the issue of land sales is still rampant. The issue of corruption within all circles is still rampant. Poverty levels continue to increase. So you don't understand why then you are doing all this research and nothing is changing. So my takeaway assignment is you should not do things the way you normally do it. You have to actually become more innovative. How do you do it? There's what is called the ecological system theory. Is everyone getting a fair chance? Even at your own home, because charity begins at home. So that is one thing that I want you to research on. Number 2 is the theory of conscientization. Moguredi yunia na kisoma duage ya kawaida. Hapana, you have to, it is the cognitive part. The corrogating process of the brain. Mpaka unashika. Conscientization, so that the youth are well conscientized on our constitution, on our rights, the land rights, and so on and so forth. Ili mtu akiwa nyumbani hata kama ni kijana moja anasongesha shida. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Waziri. Again, yeah. Because the energy for contribution and very insightful their comments, I will end with that table. I've seen many hands. Perhaps only the Masai Mara table, one person. And then, I'm sorry, as Yeyo says, I can be blamed, but I'm sorry. Neyolo, brief to the point, please.
Thank you, sir. My name is Soitanai, so from today, that is the name you'll be calling me. I want to comment on 3 things briefly and direct to the point. Honorable Josephat, who works in the office of the president, said that are the results of research going to bring more marginalization or going to bring a solution? I think it's a pertinent question to all those who undertake research to make sure that it goes towards the favor of those who do research for the good. Then he as well said, we are no longer vulnerable, that we are capable of making a change and owning that we are not limited to bringing change. Finally, Professor Sena said, Akimasai saying, Memanya imeleno, meaning we are all naturally researchers. So as a youth, I'm challenged that going forward, I should step into spaces that matter in doing research. To congratulate Ilepa and the team and those organizations like Mbido, as Honorable Joseph said, his office was born by the efforts of such indigenous-led organizations. So thumbs up, and you need to do better than you think, because the future is bright and very much bright. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Soitanayo Lesito, for those very insightful. Let's allow me, in the interest of time, I've seen Taya, I've seen many hands actually, but I'm not going to give you because time is not on our side. I know you can still provoke us, but let's hear from Olereson here. Meanwhile, I want to invite the moderator of this afternoon session. I will introduce her briefly after the comments.
Thank you very much. My name is Olereson. Just very quickly, I don't want to repeat the issue of we stop marginalizing ourselves. I think it came out very, very clearly. And we are not vulnerable anymore. We are not missing anything. We have everything that we need. We just need to move. Thank you. I think the other key takeaway is mentorship of young indigenous researchers. That is a big thing. So if we have senior researchers who are here, professors who are here, my question would be, how many indigenous researchers have you mentored to get to at least some level? I think that would be the CV for my professor, all the professors here. So that, because that's really what we need to do. The other thing is the relevance of research. I think we need to look at what has been done. And I am very passionate about, especially the Mara ecosystem. There is so much that has been done. And the big question is the dissemination of it. And I think we need to do an audit of all the research that has been done using the lens of the indigenous people. There's so much that has been done, so many PhDs, and I don't know whether the same research, if we audit it, whether it has been useful or we just need to look at priorities. And then the last thing is, we have Masai Mara University. I want to urge us to take advantage of it's a national university. It is right here. And I want to ask the partners, our Vice Chancellor is very open and is very keen to work with indigenous-led research. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Olereson. We are not going to whine anymore. We will take action and we will reach out to the university as invited. I have seen Ole Narangaik, I've seen Sami Rore, but I have requested for leave not to give you a chance. So with those many remarks, ladies and gentlemen, we also have the ILEPA board here. We'll introduce them some point. I want to invite another very powerful lady here. It seems like the ladies are taking over. The boy child, I'm not sure what is happening. But anyway, maybe they've been marginalized for far too long, so they are just rising. So Edna Kaptoyo has many hats. He's been in the movement of indigenous people for years, occupied a number of very powerful positions globally representing indigenous people. Now she's part of a funding program, Indigenous Land Fund called Pawanka Fund. Pawanka Fund is part of the supporters of this workshop, and we have done a lot of the support around issues around indigenous self-determined development, ways of knowing, revitalization of knowledge. And she is going to moderate this session. Karibu sana, mpigeni huyu Edna Kaptoyo makofi. She's an indigenous person. So yes, we have no reason to whine. We are in every space, men and women. So karibu sana.
Solonyo Kimarin, I hope you've learned some Pokot today. Hello everyone, Poisho, greetings in my language. I'm Edna Kaptoyo from the Pokot peoples of West Pokot. And as he says, I support Pawanka Fund, a global indigenous-led fund. And before we start, first is to acknowledge the owners of this land where we are gathered, the Maasai peoples, the ancestors, and also the elders who keep giving us the wisdom each and every day that carry us as indigenous peoples, the youth, and the communities. And also acknowledging every person who's here. I've connected with old friends that I haven't seen for like almost a decade. So even if we don't do anything today, we've connected again as communities. And also acknowledging the government actors who are here with us. So I saw you active this afternoon. I was worried because we've had lunch. It's getting hot. So raise your hand if you traveled for more than 2 hours to come here. Oh, raise your hand if it took you and you're interested and this is your first time to attend this event. Such a packed conference, if you've attended before or not. Okay, so we have a number who've attended some before. And so we appreciate that. So this session 2 is about sharing really from the indigenous peoples and local communities really about the different strategies in building climate resilience under the Climate and Land Use Alliance, but also sharing with the youth. And in this session, we will explore the intersecting themes of climate justice, human rights, and also issues around forest landscapes and other landscape, and also the essential role that youth play in shaping a sustainable futures. And I think you've had the Menti session before, where a lot of questions or prompts that were related to the youth, and we have a number seated here, I know, very strong indigenous youth leaders, so I'm excited about this session. And we have, of course, incredible speakers that will be able to share. So our first speaker was supposed to be from the Climate Land Use Alliance Secretariat, but she's not able to join online. While they're checking if she'll be able to join online, I'd be able to give a few remarks. As we know, these discussions around forest landscape, climate resilience, biodiversity is really an important period that we have to discuss and contribute to as Indigenous people, because the world is facing multiple crises, and we've had from discussion, different studies have shown Indigenous people are custodians of critical ecosystems that can help us address these challenges that are facing the humanity at large and also Indigenous people. And so CLUA itself, the Climate Land Use Alliance, is a funder collaborative that aims to amplify power of people and potential of forests really in achieving a sustainable and climate resilient world. And they also aim to foster equity, but also promote a systems change. As you know, a lot of many years, even within the Climate Change Convention, discussions have been happening. But we have over 29 conferences sessions, but still people are still being impacted. There is no change, little incremental one, and yet communities are suffering worldwide, especially those at the front lines and Indigenous people. And so CLUA also came up with 4 pillars, how they want to do their work. And pillar number 1 is really looking at how they can support the securing of forests and community rights and also livelihood, which are key, but also hand in hand really work in terms of advancing governance and policy in such areas. And the third one is really looking at really strengthening narratives and movements, because we know as Indigenous movement, building a movement is important in the work that is being done globally, and also having that collective action, but also shaping the messaging that goes out there, what is being said, what is being talked about in terms of impacts of climate change, for instance, and also how communities are building resilience. And finally, also the other pillar is around how finances can be shifted. And I think this is a conversation we've been having within the Indigenous people's landscape with Indigenous-led funds and other funders. How can you shift power to people so that people themselves define what they want to do with the funding you're giving? You're not telling them, take this money, work on water. Maybe water is not a critical issue for the community at that moment. Maybe it's addressing conflict, or even working on language, because they need language to build resilience, to know the terminologies about their traditional ecological knowledge. And so all of this, so in a nutshell, I think we have Kimaren and others who can also share more about Climate Land Use Alliance information, and maybe later on they'll be able to join the conversation. If not, within today and tomorrow we'll be able to have feedback on that. So let me not take so much time. And so from there we are moving on to someone, a keynote speaker who earlier on spoke, Samuel Griffel, who's from the Center for Environment and Development. He's also a Goldman Environment Prize winner, and this is a high prize awardee in 1999. So he's done a long work on environmental governance, and so he's going to share about the forest landscape in Africa and also the place of communities in really supporting building of resilience and also importance of knowledge. So Samuel, you have 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hi everyone, again. I have 10 minutes to talk about the forest in Africa, right? And I don't really know where to start. I will say 2 words to start. One will be diversity. huge diversity. And the second will be all the difficulties that we have defining the forest. Trying to see what is a forest is a very difficult exercise. You will go through all the documents and none of them will agree with the other one. And we tend to suggest a very simple method. Why don't we consider as forest what people consider as being forest? Because so far the definition tends to be very much focused on the capacity of the forest to provide economic benefits. So they will be talking about a certain size of trees, a certain density of trees, or things like that, looking more about the possibility to generate income. Why sometimes in the savanna work we worked yesterday, for example, you don't have commercial trees, but the people there consider it as being the forest. So again, why don't we just consider as being the forest what people living there consider as being a forest? This will be very simple, and I think everybody will agree on that. So having said that, we will say forest is everywhere in Africa, not only in the Congo Basin, but everywhere, because everywhere you talk to people, they refer to their forest, and it's not disconnected from their land. These are two things that are very much connected, forest and land. So talking about forest in Africa, we refer to the land of the people. We refer to the identity of the people living inside the forest, and we refer to the connections between the people living there and the nature, both the land and the whole ecosystem. It's not only the trees, it's not only the animals, it's at the end of the day, as Kyle was saying it, the connection between all those elements that really create the forest. And the loss in one element of this connection is what brings diseases in the forest, as some indigenous Baka will say it in the forest. I would like to, I'll tell you two stories, very short. The first was a discussion I had with some researchers, university researchers, I will say not like those we have here, we are privileged to have here. And we were planning to work on a land policy in Cameroon. And we said, okay, to know what to do, we need to go and talk to the people. They have to have their input so that we know how to, what they think about what the government is planning to do. And these researchers and high-level civil servants said, we are being provocative to ask them to go to illiterate communities and ask them what to do on such complex and very serious issues. And our answer to them was, at the end of the day, you are the one who are very provocative, because you tend to find a solution to a problem that people are facing without talking to them. And this, I think, is the same at the global level. I was looking at ChatGPT and trying to know how many indigenous people we have in the world and rural communities. And they said approximately half of the population of the world is rural communities and indigenous people. So how come we think it's possible to find a solution for problem associated to the management of the forest, to land, all those things we are talking about, without going to half of the people, half of the population, and trying to see what they think about it? How come it's possible for us to think we can continue with business as usual, continue with the failure of the policies, not being able to find solutions to all those problems, because we are so heavily relying on researchers, traditional researchers, and we are not willing to look at other opportunities, other solutions coming from half of the population of the world. This is just not possible. This is, I think, very provocative. And we are on the right side of the table, because by saying you need to talk to us, you have to talk to us because we have part of the solutions. The main reason why you see all what we still have in terms of forest, biodiversity, of land, is exactly because the people you are marginalizing have been in charge of the management for many centuries. The problems we are seeing today are only 1 century long, only that. The problems we see today is the result of 1 century of marginalization, 1 century of management against the communities, without the communities. And we see what we have. Are we ready to go for another century? Science will say, no, it's not possible. The land, the earth will collapse far before that. So we need to find a solution. But we don't have a solution, to be frank. So the only solution could be going back to the roots, going back to the people, and trying to see at the end of the day what they did to keep the land and the resources for so long before those in charge now came in. So if you look at what are the I think I still have 5 minutes, right? The problems we see today in forest management are at least of 2 categories. First category is that we have been looking at the forest much more as a possibility to generate money. Logging has happened, pharmaceutical, cosmetic companies, mining companies, agro-industries, they all came in and they implemented the management at a level that we never saw before. Large-scale operations, lot of destruction, but very often focus on one specific resource, one specific objective. And this is far away from what local communities and indigenous people have been doing. You can't have the land or the forest or the water and try to focus on only one aim or one goal for the management. This is just not part of the culture of the communities. And I think this is where the failure came from. When you look at one resources only, one objective only, you tend to forget all the other objectives, and you tend to destroy more than what you are supposed to do what you want to do, what you want to achieve. So this is the first problem. The second problem we had was the combination of all those activities happening at the same time, on the same species, on the same forest. And destroying is a combination that destroys at a very large speed, what we see today. And because of that, the space available for communities, the space available for cultural activities, economic activities of communities has been totally reduced, and implying a competition for access to those resources. And this competition came together with a lot of conflicts between users of the land, users of the resources, and the managers working for the state. This is the main reason why today we are seeing the disappearance of the culture. Space is no more there to allow for the culture to continue as in the past. This is no more there to allow for the economic activities of communities to continue. And this is why we only have half of the people, the population of the world, living in rural areas, because space disappearing, resources disappearing, they have to move to towns. And is this the future that we want to see for the forest, for the people? I don't think so, because it's so clear that we cannot stand that anymore for any longer. We have been looking at some studies, and I will end there. I think it was 1972, Miro report. There was a study commissioned by UNEP, I think. And at the end of the day, professors from the MIT did the research. The question was, how long will we be able to continue with growth, economic growth in the world? And their answer was, we cannot do it at the current pace. It will not be able to continue for more than 40 years. That was 1972. And 2012, the researchers were still alive, and they were asked to have an assessment of the situation 40 years later. And the conclusion was, it seems to be too late. Growth happened faster than expected. The consequences on health are just terrible, and many of them are totally irreversible. So if you don't stop now, that was 2012, it will be too late. And we did not stop. We continue with the growth. And I think now the situation is worse than what we had in 2012. And it's just not possible to continue. We have to stop at some stage, and we have to look for alternative way. Only that this does not exist in the academic literature. The only way to find alternative ways to manage the planet and to think that we have a chance of surviving is to come back to the local and indigenous communities and to ask them very humbly how to do it, how did you do it, and how should we do it? And I think it's now to do it before the culture disappears, before this knowledge disappears. And it's our responsibility as researchers to come out with these solutions when we still have them available. Because I'm very confident in the fact that failure will call us to find other solutions, that the crisis will come with very clear opportunities. We will be able to provide answers to the questions that the current science is not able to answer. And that's why I'm part of those who voted for more optimism earlier in the, I don't know how you call it, the Mentimeter. I think we have all the ingredients for changes. We have the knowledge, we have the failure, the crisis is there, and when the crisis comes, decision makers will be looking for solutions. And the solutions lies into our hands, I think. The point now is to make sure that the solutions are known and that many more people ask to look at local communities and indigenous communities for solutions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Samuel. I think he deserves more claps. I think he's highlighted critical things about we indigenous people and local community hold half of the world. And so if you're not at the table, we usually say at the decision-making table, then you're on the menu, instead of being at the right place, and also nothing about us without us. I think that's a slogan that resonates with a lot of communities. And I think one key takeaway I have is really the world and everyone else has to learn from communities who've been stewarding for centuries. They are the science, they are the holders of this knowledge. And so we need to be part of it. And I think I had one experience with a Batwa who told people in a conference one time and say, you're talking about forests. Forest is us, and we are part of it. We are not separate from nature. So we are part of nature, and nature is us. And I think from Asia, there's a community in Thailand, the Karen. When a baby is born, they take the umbilical cord and they tie it on the tree. And that is to start the child's connection to nature, when they are born. And so you see those connections all over the world, and you see how we are connected to nature, and we continue to live in harmony. And I think that's the narrative we need to bring out there. If we are not involved, then the world will suffer. But we have a generation to think about as well. So that ushers us into the next part of the discussion, which involves the youth. We usually say they are the present and also the future generation. They are here with us. And we have some key youth who or young leaders, emerging leaders within their communities, also working in the environmental governance space from various communities. And also I applaud them because indigenous youth, not only in Kenya, from Asia, Latin America, even North America, they are always connecting and forming local networks, but also globally organizing as well to make their voice heard. Because as communities, we always forget about them, you know. The way you forget sometimes about women, you forget about youth voices and that they have something to bring on board and innovation. So I'd like to invite my sister from Nepal, Sharana Sherpa, who's going to help moderate the session. And Judy, you're back. Judith Kipkenda from Ogiek. So we'll have two co-moderators. These are young indigenous women who are leaders. They are part of organizations working on research with Sharana also supporting Center for Research in Nepal, CIPRED, but also Judy working a lot with indigenous Ogiek as well with others in areas of food systems, environmental governance. And so I invite the two of you to come on board and invite your speakers and lead us on here.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Nice. I just like something that Edna said. I am a forest girl, and the forest is me. We are not separable. It is very true. My name is Judy Kipkenda. I am a daughter of the indigenous Ogiek people of Mau Forest. I come from a small village called Eldamaravin, found in Baringo County. And I'm so happy to be amongst you, and also happy to lead beside my sister this session. Yeah, so just straight ahead, I'll just allow her to introduce herself, then I'll tell you the context that we're about to begin right now.
Hello, Tashidelik everyone. I am Sharana Sherpa. I belong to the Sherpa indigenous peoples of Nepal. And first of all, it is my greatest pleasure to be here in Masai land, and I'm very happy to be part of this immense wisdom that is in this room. So I'll be co-moderating this session with my sister right here, and also I'm immensely happy to see so many young faces in the room, and I just want to give a big round of applause for all the youths in the room once. So now I hand over the mic again to sister.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. Considering the discussions that we've been having here since morning about the critical importance of indigenous peoples-led research, the critical importance of biodiversity conservation. Right now, we want to start a conversation with the young people and the role that we play in biodiversity conservation. As a young person who is actively leading initiatives in my community and seeing a lot of other young people who are part of the Kenya, first of all, the Kenya Indigenous Youth Network members who are here, please stand up. I just want to recognize you because you're all doing an amazing job in your communities. Please, Milka, I see you. Yeah. So we've been doing a lot of work within our communities in terms of biodiversity conservation, in terms of land rights struggles. And today, I want us to talk with these young people and understand why they are very critical in this process of conserving our biodiversity, climate resilience, and the places that these resilience and conservation efforts, the places of the indicators for well-being and why they're relevant for indigenous peoples. And at that juncture, I want to invite some young people, amazing young people on stage. Miss Leris Nyangono, please come on stage. Oh, it's a Mr., sorry. Pauline Soine, Advocate Soine, please. Carson Kiburo, Santian, Elias. Elias Kimayo. Mr. Elias Kimayo, please come on stage.
Bonsoir à tous. Je suis Leris Nyangono, je suis autochtone, je sors du Cameroun. Comme vous le constatez, moi je suis une personne d'expression française, francophone, et je suis désolé pour ne pas m'exprimer en anglais. Mais je pense que M. Samuel va assurer un peu la traduction. Pour aller du droit au but, je suis jeune autochtone. Du Cameroun, je suis étudiant à l'université de Yaoundé 2 Soie, en faculté de droit. Je fais droit et j'ai fait un mémoire en droit des populations autochtones. Et pour le moment, je suis en cycle doctorat. En parlant de les indicateurs du bonheur d'après non seulement les recherches et notre expérience quotidienne, je vais commencer par une petite anecdote. Chez nous, les populations autochtones, il y a 2 groupes autochtones au Cameroun. Les populations autochtones des forêts et les populations autochtones de la savane. Je suis autochtone Baka de la forêt. Et ça fait en sorte que, regardons ceci, pour construire la maison, j'ai besoin de la forêt. Pour aller au supermarché, notre supermarché, c'est la forêt. Notre quincaillerie, pour construire des maisons, c'est la forêt. Notre pharmacie, pour se soigner, c'est de la forêt. Notre lien spirituel, la communication, c'est la forêt. Et ça fait en sorte que le premier élément du bien-être des populations autochtones de la forêt, ce n'est que la protection de la forêt, la jouissance de tous nos droits sur des terres. C'est la principale chose qui nous procure du bonheur. Pourquoi? Cette principale chose porte en elle seule beaucoup de sous-volets. À travers la forêt, on peut envoyer nos enfants à l'école. À travers la forêt, ce sont les génératrices de revenus, les activités génératrices de revenus. À travers la forêt, on exprime totalement notre bien-être. Pourquoi? Parce que lorsque nous sommes en lien avec notre nature, c'est la seule expression de la satisfaction des populations autochtones de la forêt. C'est là où on exprime le bonheur. À travers la forêt, on peut aller à l'école. À travers la forêt, on peut faire d'autres choses.
Okay, his name is Leris Nyangono from Cameroon, from one of the 2 categories of indigenous people we have in Cameroon. We have forest indigenous people, to whom Leris belong, and we have indigenous people in the savannah, pastoralist. These are the 2 categories, and Leris is a student in law. He has a master, and now he is enrolled in a PhD program. He was talking about the indicator of well-being, and he said before he dives into that, he wanted to tell you about how they see the forest. And he said the forest is their supermarket where they can get everything they need from. It's their pharmacy where they get all what they need for medical treatment. They get everything for construction from the forest. It's also through the forest that they connect to the ancestors. So it's the area where they have their cults. Any income generation is done through the forest. So this is what he was saying. Oui, Loris, tu peux continuer.
En ce qui concerne maintenant les différents domaines auxquels les jeunes ont besoin du soutien pour le développement, en ce qui concerne la conservation et les changements climatiques pour le développement durable, on peut d'abord revoir le système éducatif des populations autochtones. Comment on peut appuyer le système, comment on peut appuyer l'éducation des jeunes autochtones. Toutefois, ne pas oublier le volet de l'éducation durable, la durabilité. Comment enseigner les populations autochtones une éducation basée sur la durabilité, parce que nous sommes, comme on le dit souvent, nous sommes les meilleurs protecteurs de notre environnement. Donc, revoir le système éducatif, comment on peut appuyer l'éducation des jeunes autochtones en se basant sur la question de durabilité. Deuxième chose, on peut revoir le problème de la citoyenneté des jeunes Baka et tous les autres jeunes autochtones, parce qu'on s'est rendu compte que dans nos recherches et selon la situation de nos frères dans nos villages, ils ont un problème de citoyenneté. Vous-même, comme vous le savez, vous ne pouvez pas jouir de tous les droits humains si vous ne détenez pas les actes de naissance ou la carte nationale d'identité. À travers l'acte de naissance, je peux aller à l'école. Si je n'ai pas l'acte de naissance, je ne peux pas aller à l'école. Je serai bloqué. Deuxième chose, si je n'ai pas la carte nationale d'identité, je ne peux pas présenter un concours administratif. Je ne peux non plus être recruté dans une entreprise publique ou parapublique. Je ne peux non plus me déplacer ou voyager. Ça fait en sorte que mes droits humains seront redressés. Je serai seulement dans le milieu urbain. Je ne peux pas me déplacer. Quatrième chose, la valorisation de nos langues. Parce qu'on s'est rendu compte que de nos jours, les langues des populations autochtones sont prédominées par les langues des populations voisines. Je donne l'exemple, voilà le français et l'anglais que nous parlons. Est-ce que nous sommes les originaires de la France ou de l'Angleterre? Non. Comment on peut refaire pour valoriser nos langues traditionnelles, nos langues maternelles? Parce qu'à travers nos langues maternelles, c'est là où on continue à prouver les éléments qui entrent dans le bonheur des populations autochtones. Et ce qui durcit d'abord davantage la culture des populations autochtones, donc la valorisation de nos langues et surtout les savoirs traditionnels. Parce que lorsque nos parents vont partir, comment est-ce qu'on va faire? Nous ne serons pas les Blancs, nous ne serons pas les Français. On va toujours demeurer les populations autochtones. Et ce qui fait l'originalité d'un autochtone, c'est les savoirs ancestraux, les savoirs traditionnels, la préservation de l'héritage culturel. Donc, il faut mettre un point d'honneur sur ça. Je vais continuer en disant la préservation de l'héritage culturel, mais aussi la durabilité sur la communication. Pourquoi? Parce que à travers la forêt, à travers ces savoirs culturels, ce sont les liens spirituels qui nous permettent de communiquer avec nos ancêtres.
Excusez-moi, Larry, please.
Talking more specifically about the well-being indicators, Laris was focusing on 4 points. The first is about education. He was saying there is a need to have a system of education adjusted to their culture, to their needs, and very much focus on sustainability. The second point was the recognition of their nature of citizen in Cameroon. The point here is to say they are not recognized or fully recognized as citizens. They seem to be a second-class citizen with not all the papers needed and all the recognition that they need. The third element of their well-being was the possibility of continue using their language in a context where their language is being dominated by the language of their neighbors, the non-indigenous neighbors, and the language of the colonial languages, French and English. So for them, using their language is also one of the major indicators. And the last one is being able to enjoy their cultural heritage. Make sure that their culture can be transmitted from one generation to the other. And this is also very much linked to their ability to communicate with their ancestors. So these were the four elements. Et les autres vont pouvoir parler. Donc, il faut pouvoir... Peut-être que tu vas revenir sur les questions après.
Pour terminer, je vais parler de la conservation. Qu'est-ce qu'on fait? On est victime...
C'est mieux de laisser les autres, comme ça tu peux revenir pendant les questions. Sinon, ils n'auront pas de temps.
D'accord. C'est le dernier point.
Tu peux le dire pendant les questions.
Je voulais chuter pour la conservation. Ce que nous faisons, c'est que, comme nous sommes dans une zone d'exploitation abusive de nos forêts, qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire pour la protection de l'environnement, la conservation? Quelles sont nos actions? C'est chercher des projets qui consistent à régénérer nos essences qui avaient été coupées par les agro-industriels, les exploitants forestiers qui sont légaux ou illégaux, et ça nous amène à faire des mini-reboisements pour régénérer la forêt dont dépendent les populations autochtones. En ce qui concerne le réchauffement climatique, je vais chuter en disant que on propose un autre système éducatif basé sur les enseignements de durabilité de nos forêts. Je vous remercie.
Okay, Loris, talk about what they suggest in terms of conservation, and he very quickly said one of the things they are doing is to work for forest restoration in regenerating trees that were cut by the loggers. On climate change, their focus is on education to sustainability.
Hello. Thank you, dear brother from Cameroon. So firstly, we would like to apologize for missing out on calling Dillon, and we welcome him to the stage. Dillon Foster, he's from the University of Michigan, and we would like to welcome him to the panel discussion. So without any further ado, I would like to move on to the first question that we have. And I would like to remind all the speakers that we have 3 minutes allocated for each question, and I would request you to remain in the time frame. So the first question is, can you share your experiences as well as barriers, opportunities, innovative approaches as a youth in being involved in nature-based intervention initiatives in your country or region, and what would you say are key relevant indicators of well-being in the context of youth? So I would like to start with our sister. Please also give you a brief introduction before starting the answer.
Elders in the room, the academias, our fathers, our mothers, our grandmothers, our morans, those age sets that we sing for, and the ladies and gentlemen in the room, I would like to say, Enda Super. My name is Edith Santian. I'm from Transmara. I'm a journalist by career, and I've been a news anchor in one of the rooms some time back, but I'm in the advocacy area given that I've been covering a lot of stories about indigenous people that is actually a calling. And so what I would say is that I'm a founder and executive director in Nalala Tree Foundation. I'm also a policy maker and a Pan-African Climate Adaptation Resilience Network, PACT, which actually works within 54 countries. And I'm super proud to say I'm an Indigenous representative and speaking on behalf of the Indigenous people before the issues of the African demands are forwarded to SB 62. I'm one of the people who actually contribute a lot to represent our people. And so when I see the Ogek, when I see any other tribe like the Endorois and many other Baragois and so on, I'm super, super happy to be one of them. And again, I'm also a brand ambassador for the youth in Narok County. So for the youth in the room, you can see me on the Nyota initiative. I'm going to actually give you some very, very insightful opportunities for you in the government. And as a non-governmental youth, I would say that there is a lot of things that we participate in, yes, but there are also gaps. There are a lot of gaps. One of it is the complicated policy-making processes that takes very longer procedures. And before it reaches to the national, leave alone the international level, it is usually very, very critical to include the Indigenous people. Reason being, it is being saved in the process. We go through a save, and by the time it gets to the international level, we have like 2%, I think, of the funding allocated for all Indigenous people globally. So you can imagine. And when you talk about Indigenous people, let's please count data. Let's look at the research outcomes and the resolution presented on table. Because you cannot say you're representing an Indigenous person who've been actually part of the ecosystem 100%, investing in nature and contributing 100% to a balanced ecosystem, and then you give them 2%, and then we are talking about equitable resources sharing. Are we talking about global funding equity? It is not possible yet, but let me tell you there is hope, because as young people, we're standing out. Initially, we were told that the Indigenous are not educated. We can speak it out for ourselves. We can speak in the policy-making rooms, and if possible, we can even go on the streets. Nobody should stop an Indigenous person from speaking for themselves. You have the mandate, whether you're in the government, whether you're in the non-governmental, whether you're in the villages, Yeyo has said, speak it out. I like the boldness that we have in the room and the diversity we have. I believe there are people from Nepal here, and multiple of them maybe from Uganda, so Southern Sudan and Northern Sudan. And I really feel so proud of us today. And for all Chamus people from Baringo, don't stop speaking it out. You have to have a constituency, because we are not less fortunate in any aspect. We have a right. We are citizens of our given countries, be it Uganda, Namibia, or Zanzibar. And the other thing that I would like to speak about, some of the things that we are not included in, is also in research. We have very much educated people that are coming in with a lot of, all right, okay. We have a lot of people who are actually coming up with their own research processes without including the Indigenous knowledge. And let me tell you, whatever is still holding the earth today is Indigenous knowledge. Some of us still consult our ancestors up to date. And so we would propose for those of us who are in the Indigenous Academy to come in together. You can actually consult me after some time, because we are wrapping up. And in terms of youth, youth-led initiatives, let's motivate ourselves. In terms of climate action, I'm actually advocating for sensitization. There is just a lot that needs to be done in terms of sensitization, so our youth can realize the position, and nobody should speak on behalf of the Indigenous youth. Thank you.
Okay, the same question goes to dear brother.
Okay, thanks for this opportunity. Elias Kimayo from Sengwer Indigenous Community, and I said, who lives in Embobot Forest. So, and also a member of Undersat Gataras Forum, that is Sungafo, which comprises of other communities like Okeko Mau, Okeko Mount Elgon, Yaku, Kokoto Forest, and also our brothers from Boni. So that is a network we are in as forest indigenous communities. So talking of question one, just to talk about the barriers, the barriers to youth as a leader of Sengwer community, speaking of that barriers for working with you. Possible evictions that happens here and there every now and then. So it affects it as like a mental torture to these youth. So they look themselves and reflected to those people who live good life. So they tended to live their indigenous way of life and they wanted to adapt it to outsiders, thinking that they are special than themselves because of their things they are just exposed to. So going to opportunities. So these opportunities, if we have what we call community-led initiatives, whereby communities led initiatives and encourage their youth and showcasing that their way of life in relation to nature is the best, then that is when they can develop positive attitudes and become youth that can lead the indigenous way of life and also do research for their communities.
Thank you so much, Mr. Elias. In respect of time, allow us to move to the next speaker. And kindly, our last remaining speakers, would you please just introduce yourself and go straight to the question? And as we move forward, we are going to question number 2. How are indigenous youths defining and differentiating their roles within the indigenous peoples' movements in the context of biodiversity, climate action, and sustainable development? 3 minutes, please, strictly. The 2 of you will respond to the same question, then the remaining 2 speakers, the last question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Greetings, everyone. I'm Carson Kiburo, indigenous of the Ndorois. We live in Lake Bogoria. Yeah, so I consider myself an indigenizing legal researcher in a world that wasn't meant for us. Having said that, I wanted to say that we are supposed to indigenize or decolonize, but how do we do that? I was intrigued by the words of Honorable Lawai, but then again, beyond that, what are we doing at a personal level in the community? So the opportunities, as we've been asked, is that for myself, I've just finished a paper on biocultural rights protocol, showing how we can coexist within the Western type of education and our indigenous worldview. No need to go into deep discussion in that because I don't have time. Answering Judy's question is that the youth need to volunteer. I found myself in this space because I saw the struggle that we had. And my first training was in ICT, but I found zero creativeness in my own abilities. And then my abilities were best suited in explaining or in advocating through legal pluralism. And so I volunteered myself in the space. I've been through the hands of people like Kimaren, Kobe, and other leaders who I have seen in Endorai's land as well. And so in the movement, we need to engage in our customary aspect of our bicultural rights framework. We also need to do, for the elders who are here, we have to do the intentional mentoring. Intentional mentoring in the sense that there's a thin line between mentoring and gatekeeping the space. Gatekeeping in the positive side, because we have to take care of our rights as well. Upholding our rights or participating in our rights means that we also have to be advocates and in good faith. And so there are young people who look up to us, younger than also the youth that are here, but we have to give them our minds and our experience. So what can we improve? I think that we can intertwine the intergenerational dialogue, and I imagine a panel that will be a mix of the youth and the elders in the next few days. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. My name is Pauline Saris. My indigenous name is Saris Simiu. My English name is Pauline. I represent the indigenous fisher people of Lake Victoria. And I'm happy to be here today. Going straight to it, to answer your question. There is a deliberate attempt by the youth to bridge the intergenerational and intersectional gap in indigenous knowledge, and we have seen this both online and offline. The youth are being very intentional about learning their roots. The youth are being very deliberate about knowing where they came from, what is their culture, and celebrating that. We have seen this time and again through the different cultural festivals that have been organized. We see all the time, every year the Ma get together for the Ma Cultural Week, and other cultures are adapting that as well. And this is something that I would encourage, being one of only 2 people in this room representing the indigenous fisher people. We are a people that have lost our identity, and it is something that I am hoping that we can take back home and help our people be proud of their culture, celebrate their culture, and be proud of where they came from. Because as it is now, we are a people who have lost their identity. Our people are being swallowed up, for lack of a better word, by the other communities, the bigger communities. And in 10, 20 years' time, the Abanyala, who are the indigenous people around Lake Victoria, indigenous fisher people around Lake Victoria, will be extinct. And so our culture is slowly being swallowed up. Whatever we knew as ways of conserving the environment, what we are lacking now as a barrier is we do not have proper documentation of those conservation methods. And therefore, this is also some sort of a proposal for the donors, the partners, the academia, and any partner who is in this room, in case you're looking to do any research around Lake Victoria that is centered around the people. Because we have a lot of research done, but then the research that is there at the moment is centered around the modern and conventional fishing principles, neglecting the indigenous ones, and therefore this has, displaced the people who are indigenously depending on Lake Victoria as a resource, and at the moment they have to pay heavily. Somebody who is indigenous to Lake Victoria today cannot afford fish gotten from Lake Victoria. That they have commercialized the lake, and therefore it is so unaffordable for the people that are coming around that area. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your insights and experiences. Now we move to the third question. So the third question is, what gives you hope right now? Where are you seeing as meaningful and transformative approaches to Indigenous youth engagement emerging, and what can be done better?
Good evening, everyone. I'll start by introducing myself very fast. My name is Soinei Parseina, an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. I've done practice for the last 6 years. I'm a managing partner in Parseina, Soinei and Company Advocates. I work with many NGOs as a consultant, and I'm just here as a panelist and doing the job that I love, interpreting to my people the law. So let me just briefly just go to the 3 questions very fast, because I'll not be doing you justice by just answering one question. I'll do it very fast. The first one was asking us about the barriers and the opportunities. For me, I've seen so many barriers, and what are these barriers? Explaining myself all the time that I'm a Maasai girl, I've done law, I've done this and this. Just getting that opportunity itself has been a barrier. Let me go to the policies. Many policies that are made in this country are just favoring the selective few. But why are they not favoring us? Because where are we during public participation? Do you even attend to your constituency and contributing to the land laws, the land policies that the government are putting there? No, we are always busy ignoring the law. So that is one barrier. But what are the opportunities? There are so many. The county governments are there. The government has just come to your village. Do you visit your office governor? Your county governor? Do you even know what are the policies that are happening at the county level? Or we are just busy in doing politics? After 5 years, we do another politics, and you are not even involved in the policy. So there goes an opportunity for you to contribute. And I was so happy to see the Gen Zs coming in and doing justice to the finance bill. Just look at it, just look how that opportunity just swept the whole country and the whole generation. So there goes an opportunity. But how do you do it? Through social media? Be outside there. And even the tech is here. Technology is taking over, and we have to embrace technology. What we have seen today here, it was just amazing. So those are the opportunities for you to be there and do the climate change and be there for the indigenous people. For the second question, it was talking about indicators and the well-being in the context of youth. The first thing you need to do is knowledge. Do you have the knowledge of what is actually happening in the climate, or even the knowledge of indigenous people, or even defining you as an indigenous person? Everything starts with knowledge. What do you know before starting? Because that's how you start doing something, by doing knowledge. And the reason why I do pro bono services, I've done so many in Suso and Kajiado. I keep on explaining to my people, know your land rights. What is such? What title do you have? Is it a lease? Is it a leasehold? Is it a freehold title you have? Because if you don't know, people will come and take your land because you don't know. Do you know what is adverse possession? Who explains to you what is adverse possession? Do you know when the government takes your land, they have to compensate you? Are you aware? Let us start from the point of knowledge. Knowing and being outside there and participating. The last question you asked me is what
gives you hope, right?
Yeah, what gives me hope? I have so much hope sitting in this room and seeing professors who are my father's age, and seeing professors from the Maa community who are my brothers. And me, myself, being an advocate from the indigenous, that gives me hope. Having this conference where we are wearing our own attires, talking our own language, my God, that gives me hope. And the future can only be clear, because we are learning from the best of our fathers. We are learning from them. And for me, I have hope. That is my hope today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, dear sister. Now we move to the same question to Dylan.
Hello, my name's Dylan Foster. I am a student and researcher from the University of Michigan in the United States, and I am collaborating with a digital archiving and advocacy project with ILEPA. And the question of what brings me hope, I would say this panel. I think the youth has fought very, very hard to have our voice heard, and the fact that we are all up here with many elders and respected community members listening to our voices is incredible. that's incredibly powerful and hopeful. Beyond that, I think the youth's utilization of technology has been astounding, and I find that very hopeful. I think maybe we are the first generation with some kind of innate knowledge to work a smartphone or a computer. And the fact that we can utilize that in our advocacy and our research is very incredible. And the fact that we are able to have scholars and advocates from North America joining us virtually and having this big global network brought together is very powerful.
Thank you so much, our panelists. That was amazing. And I also want to identify a barrier. The young people want to speak. We want to tell our issues. Giving us a very small time is not fair. It's actually a barrier itself. Thank you so much, but actually, for giving us this opportunity to just have that small time. When the youth were responding to the Mentimeter, one of the things that came out was being excluded from decision making. I'm not saying this is part of it, but next time give us a whole day to give our perspectives. We also have the solution, and we can also participate actively in research. You know, thank you. Oh, maybe you have something to finish with? Okay, thank you so much.
A big thank you to the youth. I think they say your voice is not yours. You carry a lot of aspiration, but also a new mindset that can also help us cause the change we want to do in this world. And I like that you spoke a lot about actions you want to be done, having intergenerational dialogues, having mentorship, and there are institutions here who do mentorship. So please support and get Indigenous youth on board, pay them an allowance, and support them to really build their capacity and knowledge where they have gaps, and where they have strength, also support them. And of course, the other thing is also, as change makers, you've highlighted your role really doing the action. And so I want to inspire you to keep moving on. Don't get discouraged. I know time is not on our side, but keep the conversation going in coffee breaks, tea breaks, within your tables. And so a round of applause for the youth and also the previous speakers. And thank you, and let's keep the conversation going. Thank you.
Could you please appreciate Edna and the youth, even for being on point for the little time they got? I think we were struggling to find a balance between the numbers and the time and the pointed question so that they speak to the moment. And one of the challenges we've learned as we grew also is to deliver what you have in 2 minutes. In these global processes, they actually mute your mic. Then you'll be speaking to yourself. No mercy. So it's part of the mentorship that I think we were told here, that we need as elders, as frontliners, to actually mentor our youth in every aspect, not just knowledge, but in processes and mechanisms that will make them effective to deliver and negotiate these complex spaces. We are pressed with time, and it's expected when you have 150 experts in one space in 2 days. It's an expectation which we are ready to go with. So we have 2 things to do. We want to have a Mentimeter, but I think we'll start the Mentimeter tomorrow morning when we are fresh, because I think it's going to be something very exciting. We have Deborah online. She wants to say at least hello, the CLUA representative. I think there was a hitch in our communication. And I don't know whether the tech team is ready. CLUA supported this workshop, and they actually are interested in these well-being indicators in the context of natural resource conservation and management. And if we can, if the tech team can get to Deb and we can give her 10 minutes. I was proposing we were to have a short panel with the state, and there are only 4. And there's a targeted question, and these ones they have been trained to summarize, I think. If we have the energy to listen to that session as a last session for the day, then we can go for a break, not to come back. Because I'm fearing if we go for a break, we may not find our way back. Not that I don't trust you, but I know we are tired. Are we in agreement? Do you have some little energy for that last session? Kindly? Thank you very much. Consent, free, prior, and informed consent. We don't want to impose on you. I should be given a cue once. I see Deborah is already here. We want to apologize for the communication mishaps, but glad that you hung on and are here. The team here is excited to hear your quick reflection on the Forest Peoples and Climate Program of KLUA, and that Pact and ILEPA and the team here are very grateful for the kind support you provided to make this gathering a possibility. They have graciously given us about 10 minutes to hear the insights from you. Over to you.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy that you are all gathering together and having this time to think about your research paths and projects. I just wanted to share a brief presentation with you, some key points that it's good to share with you now about FPC, so you know that we can work in partnership. So I don't know if you can see my presentation there. Is it shared? Yes?
Yes.
Can you see my screen?
Can the tech team confirm we are seeing, please?
Can you see it?
Yes, we can see.
Okay.
Perfect. That's perfect now.
Yes? Awesome. So I would just take 5 minutes to share with you what we're doing now and the reason why we wanted to work together. Forest Peoples Climate is an initiative that KLUA and others created so we could support organizations on the ground to protect their forests and protect other biomes that have to do with this. So the idea is that we can call to collaborate philanthropic donors, civil society, and community-based organizations that want to halt deforestation in different biomes. And the objective is that we can mobilize new money that wants to work differently, that wants to collaborate with the organizations, working on shifting powers towards the autonomy of indigenous peoples, local communities, and Afro-descendants organizations that have a commons that work around this. And the work we are trying to do is to mobilize some new funding and new ways of working with philanthropic sources. So what are we trying to do? Well, trying to safeguard tropical forests, shift finance and markets to favor standing forests, and strengthen public support and advance a strong policy. And the idea of our work is to be present in these 3 prioritized geographies and then work like globally to support them. So I'm working with some colleagues on the strategy for indigenous peoples, local communities, and Afro-descendants, and we have been involving loads of experts and researchers to guide our work. So to be transparent, this is how the governance work, and we are here in the FPC strategies. working with grant makers and organizations to push forward these objectives, to have resilient biomes and shifting financial sources so it can happen. And this is the core of the things that I wanted to share with you. What we want, and I guess we are in alignment with Pact, it's that there would be more direct financial support to organizations that are led by indigenous peoples, local communities, and in the case of Latin America, Afro-descendant communities that are scaling up equitable financial support for self-determined priorities and needs. So now that you're getting nerdy with how to do research, this is our theory of change. So we are trying to focus on objective 4 that you can see up in your screen to the left. The idea is that we want forests in good standing, but forests depend on people and not the other way. And I mean, we depend on the forest, yes, but forests depend on us. And the idea of this collaborative is to achieve self-determined development, and that way we can have thriving communities that have that live in good biomes. So the work that you may be doing about well-being indicators for us is super important, because what we want to do is to have indigenous and local communities researchers define what well-being is for you, and not somebody that comes from elsewhere to define it. And the idea is that we can have, of course, mechanisms that are done to strengthen direct financial support built, but we have some indicators that the priorities that you have set up are the ones that have been supported. So that's the main idea. So well-being as defined by your communities, and then of course the youth and women are usually the ones that need their voices to be heard the most. So we are very confident that your research is gonna be interesting for all of us, and that would be it from my side. If you have any questions, please go ahead, and I'm here for you. I am a researcher as well. I'm based in Peru, in Lima, and going back and forth to New York, and I really look forward to your work. I would have loved to be there, but the agenda wasn't easy for us. So thank you so much, and if you have any questions, I'm here to answer that.
Oh, well, could we appreciate Deborah? Thank you very much, Deb, and it's great. You've come in many different ways. You've made us gather, and here you are sharing your insights with us. And you've shared the slides, which we will share with the team. So in many ways, you're here. And giving us a space to develop well-being indicators, to make self-determination the foundation of our relationship, is very fundamental, very refreshing. All indigenous people have been asking for is a space for self-determined development, is really the foundation that will ensure well-being for indigenous people. And thank you very much for being here. I think I will take 2 comments so that at least he hears the voices from the room. Only two. I know we have overstretched your energies, so if I don't get a question and a comment, it's understood. Meanwhile, we want to welcome the next panel, as I see whether there is any hand. I think you are very clear, except that Olesimel wants an elaboration. I see one hand. Please, a mic to Olesimel. We have a panel with policy actors, And if Mheshimiwa Lowoi could be here and the commissioner stepped out. Oh, okay. Oh, I see. Sorry. I was looking at the wrong table. And this state or government representative at whatever level from Nepal and from Indonesia. And if Cameroon had a government representative, they'll be here. But I know they didn't have one. So, Olesimel, please, can you give a mic straight to the point? We just want Deborah to hear the voices from here and maybe respond to any pertinent.
Thank you very much indeed, Deborah. On a quick one, I came in when you are showing the map on where you want to focus more, and particularly in Africa, where I have a lot of interest. You only seem to be focusing on Congo Basin, according to what you presented. Is there any possibility that you start also thinking beyond the Congo Basin? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Lesimel, I see the last hand from Mrs. Marima. Again, straight to the point. And this is the last reaction from the...
Thank you. I want to assure Deborah that the women will be present. So don't worry, we will be available in thousands. Our voices will be heard today, tomorrow, and forever.
The women will be strongly and are strongly represented, as you can see here. Thank you, Mrs. Marima. A quick reaction or response to Olesimel?
Yes, that's a great question. And we are very aware that our work shouldn't be only on the prioritized regions. In a way, that's why I am engaging with this strategy. Like I'm from Peru, the region that I come from and I study the most is not in the prioritized regions, but we know that the conditions of the tropical forest depend on a bigger scope in the research and action that we do on the biomes. So the idea of our work is to go beyond the tropical forest to ensure that the tropical forests are thriving. We know that things are interconnected in that regard, and our strategy goes beyond the forest as a whole. So yes, we are going to support the work beyond Congo, to go straight to your point for sure. And regarding women, thank you so much for that comment. And the idea that I would like to convey is that we really want to see the voices of women and youth in the indicators that we craft, since we know that that is what we need to know that we are achieving success. And in any regard, it's that we all, as bigger community, perceive the success and understand that it is lived by us. So we look very much forward to seeing that in the work that you do on your research. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. And just on the issue of landscapes, there was a big point here about who defines forest. And is forest just high canopy, dense forest cover, or savanna, grasslands and woodlands is forest? And if one of the roles of forest is carbon sequestration, these are the ecosystems. In East Africa, for example, this is on average 75% of the landscape. And so I don't wish to bring you back on this, but just to say this was a point that in that spirit of self-determination, who defines what a forest is? Yeah, I don't want to open this discussion, but thank you for actually confirming that you'll be beyond this space, and we are already in East Africa, Kenya here, and so it is evidently clear that you are supporting beyond the Congo, in addition to the Congo. So thank you. If you have time to listen in, we have a panel here with policy actors, moderated by a very powerful lady. I don't know why the ladies, anyway, but in that spirit of gender, we have another very powerful lady, indigenous leader, Anne Samante, moderating this session. Can you please appreciate Anne? Even if their number was about 36% of the conference from the Mentimeter, their voices are very clear, as Mrs. Marima says, and they have been here. She will help us moderate this session. I know the panelists are narrow, they're not as many as the previous one, and then we can perhaps wrap up the day and we'll tell you what follows. Karibu sana.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kimareno Liriamit. I know anytime I call him that, he says that I have to be penalized because our community calls that you do not call man of his age by his real name. Not that there's a name that is not real, but yes, that one. So thank you very much. And I know we have about 20 minutes or so, and this is already giving me pressure. You can add? Okay, and do you think there's energy? Yes, so I know it's the very last session of the day, and most likely, especially for the people who've traveled from far, it may be a bit, by now you already want the day closed. But I really request that we, again, try to just get some energies to ourselves and engage in this session, very important session. So my name is Hamante Ann. I come from Kajiado County. I serve at an indigenous peoples organization called PIDO. And I'm truly honored to be here today, and it feels good to see all of us here with all the energy, and I see very active participation. And for some of us, we are also learning as we share our knowledge, and that feels very good. So I don't want to take time, owing to the fact that I'm standing between you and your tea, standing between you and your catch up with your friends, with your dinner probably. So our session this afternoon, we are going to look at the policy trends in recognition and promotion of indigenous knowledge and well-being indicators. And I think Honorable Owe started off very well this morning with us when he was talking about policy process in Kenya, which is actually historic because it's the first time we are developing an indigenous people's policy, or what we call here marginalized and ethnic minorities policy. We know most of the time the challenges that we face as indigenous peoples is one, there's no policy to safeguard our rights. Despite all the contributions we make, I think today it has become so clear that we have so much contribution to make, that if you need to do research at the community level, this is now the true authentic research. So, but there has been a gap when it comes to policy. Either the policies are not there at all, the policies are there, but we never participated in the development of these policies. Sometimes the policies are there that are quite unfavorable to us. And sometimes we just don't have the capacity to engage. I know one of the youth leaders here talked about, sometimes these policies are out here, but, we don't really bother. Sometimes it's not actually we don't bother, but you get to a space and you're not really connecting. And so that lack of capacity definitely undermines your ability to engage. So I want to, we said that this space, today we are really honored that we are able to, we have the diversity of the region, the continent, and also we have global views. And so this is going to be a very rich panel. We need to learn from our government representatives who are here. I know some of them are not probably government representatives, but at least they're going to share from their respective countries on the policy trends. How is the policy environment when it comes to protection of indigenous knowledge? So one of the youth also talked about, the forest is our supermarket, for example, that's where we get our medicine. Do we have a policy that integrates, for example, in the health policy, is that indigenous knowledge integrated in that particular policy? We say that we are stewards of nature, which indeed we are. We protect more than 80% of ecosystems. But is our knowledge integrated in the climate or environmental laws of our respective countries? So I'm going to call upon the panelists, and I'm going to begin with Professor Samuel from Cameroon. And then from Kenya, I'm going to request Honorable Luoi and Commissioner Lentupru to come here. And also from Indonesia, we have Cindy. Please be walking to the stage. We are trying to save time. And again, from Nepal, I have Sharana. She was the indigenous leader or youth rep who was moderating the previous session or co-hosting. And then from the US, we have Mary Beth from Michigan University. Okay, so for one of the speakers or panelists, she'll be joining online, that is Mary Beth, and I request that she becomes the last one to answer some of the questions that we have here for our panelists. So I'm going to begin from home. And so Honorable Luoi, who is I wish I can introduce you so that at least for you we had already been introduced, so that we really reduce on that time. So probably just the name and of course your country and your role or your title. So for Honorable Luoi, what is the state of recognition of indigenous people's rights in your country, in this case Kenya?
Thank you very much. I am Luoi Josephat Lodea, the head of Minority and Marginalized Affairs in the Office of the President. For those who are here in the morning, we became friends by fire. So I'll just dive direct to the point because I know Kimaren is timing me. The current government and the Constitution of Kenya set parameters on recognition of the indigenous people and the indigenous people's rights. Article 56 of the Constitution of Kenya mandates the government to take into consideration the issues that affect the people who we term in our Constitution as marginalized and minorities. And in this Constitution, it cuts across all the other issues on recognition, issues land, issues education, infrastructure, health, and all these issues were just awaiting implementation. Article 260 defines the communities, and all the other articles, 27, Article 10, speak on the rights of these people. Parliament of Kenya enacted the Lands Act of 2016, giving power to the indigenous community to register their land as community land. And that is what we pride on, that the communities, as we speak, are registering more of the lands as community land, apart from a few pull and push on if we need to have private lands or register them as community land. As we speak, in 2023, the president, again, through the executive order, created an office that I lead purely and squarely to deal with the issues of these marginalized and minority people who are the indigenous people. And this office has been spearheading all the fronts, first by trying to know who are these indigenous people, who are self-determined, who are these communities. Because sometimes you can make a law that is so amorphous and everybody wants to jump in and become one. So first was to make sure that we map out and identify these communities, of which it is an ongoing process. Secondly, we joined with other forces to now come with the first policy. This country has never had any policy that speaks to the indigenous people, direct to the minority and marginalized communities. But now we have a first draft of the policy that is being spearheaded by this office and in support of even some community-led organization like MPIDO. And we have the Independent Commission, NGC. We have World Bank. So this law is all-inclusive because we are trying to bring everybody on board to come up with a law that is acceptable to the communities. And in the law, we are also coming up with a draft. We almost have the first draft of the bill that will be processed through Parliament. And this bill will now go hand in hand with the policy to protect the right of the minority. So I can say this, and that as a country, we are leading in Africa, and we will lead in Africa by coming with laws that will protect and promote the activities of the communities that we are intended to.
Thank you very much, Honorable Lowe. And I want to invite Honorable Caroline, because you come from the same country, and especially considering that the National Gender and Equality Commission undertook a study that actually informed the policy that Honorable Lowe is talking about. So do you think we are headed the right direction or the wrong direction as a country? I believe from the policy that we have already a first draft, that already indicates that we are in some good path. So, Honorable Commissioner.
Thank you so much. My name is Caroline Ekena Lentupuro, Commissioner with the National Gender and Equality Commission. To add on to what my brother said and be specific to what the moderator has guided, is that are we in the right direction? The answer is definitely yes, because when the government took a step to do the policy, you know, policies in Kenya come before legislations. So policy is now, we have the first draft. Soon it will go out for public participation so that the indigenous communities, the minority communities can have a say into it, put inputs so that once it becomes a policy, it is a document that will serve them. And that then will inform the development of the legislation. And this legislation now will be one that will protect those rights, really give opportunities for the minority and marginalized communities in Kenya. And so for me, it is a move in the right direction. There is a lot to be done still, because we must make sure that we have the best of the policies to serve these communities that have been marginalized for a long time. I must also say that the government of Kenya, even in the absence of the policy, is doing so much because having served in a commission which is so concerned about diversity and the inclusion of the special interest groups that I had mentioned during my opening remarks in the morning, they are so concerned about have you included all the people. And so today in Kenya, appointments are made and there is special consideration for the minority and marginalized communities. In the commission where I serve, just to give an example, I am the representative of the minority and marginalized communities, the voice of that constituency in the commission. And that happens in other commissions. When the president appoints cabinet secretaries and principal secretaries, he has ensured that they are also represented. So I must say we are in a good space. We are improving. And even when you look at laws and policies of different sectors, one that really impressed me was one for meteorology, the one that do forecasting of the weather. The ones who will tell us whether it will rain next week or not. The law actually prescribes that the board must have an indigenous expert in the board, so that indigenous knowledge, is incorporated when they do the forecasting of the weather. Most of our communities, we look at the intestines of a goat to see whether it will rain or not. I don't know whether that speaks to most of you, but the Ilchamus community, that's what we do, and we have experts. When I used to work in Baringo County, we used to have them come, we slaughter a goat, they read the intestines and inform us as government of Baringo County then. What should we tell the people? Sometimes the outcome is so bad. Like one day they say we see bloodshed. And so now, as a county government, we freaked out. Of course, we told the authorities didn't believe us. But what happened? There was bloodshed. So I was so excited to see that the indigenous experts are now going to be part of the board that informs the weather predictions in Kenya. And so there's a lot yet to be done because we have many other sectors that need to incorporate the aspect of indigenous people in it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. I think Kenya is a good place to learn from, and I'm happy that just integrating the knowledge of indigenous peoples is something that is being acknowledged and appreciated now in our country, and so it feels good to be Kenyan at this point when you hear such good progress. So I want now to move to Asia. I know I'm coming back to my brother from Africa. But may I request Sharana to tell us about the situation of recognition of indigenous people's rights in your country, Nepal. To be Kenyan at this point when you hear such good progress. So
thank you so much, Ms. Anne. For Nepal, the Constitution of Nepal 2015 has recognized indigenous peoples. So in Nepali, we refer to indigenous peoples as Adivasi Janajati, and there are 59 indigenous peoples currently in Nepal, and similarly there are many more who are yet to be recognized and awaiting to be in the list. In addition to that, the Constitution of Nepal also has provisions for the inclusive participation of indigenous peoples, as well as the promotion of mother tongue education, promoting indigenous languages. But again, although there are a few points within the Constitution, but when it comes to reality, these have rarely been implemented. So, like the Constitution of Nepal, there is also Nepal has also ratified many international instruments, including the ILO Convention 169 on indigenous people's rights. But again, for a long time, although this was implemented, this was ratified, the implementation remained very lagging. But very recently, an organization called the Lahore NIP, which works especially on the legal issues, with their efforts and with the efforts of indigenous movements from generations, we were able to have the court who has mandated that the provincial, federal and local government governments need to revise their laws and policies in line with the ILO 169, but saying that still there are many issues of land grabbing in the name of development and in the name of conservation that are happening a lot in Nepal. Additionally, additionally, one important opportunity that stands for Nepal is that we have the local operational plan, which allows the local government to form their own policies according to the local context. So, for example, for CIPRED, we have used this opportunity very much to collaborate with the local government and for the recognition of the rights of indigenous peoples, especially our customary institutions by the local laws. So an example of this has been us collaborating with the local government of the Chumnubri Rural Municipality, and there the Shagya customary practices have been continuing for generations. But this area is now in the Manaslu conservation area, which is a protected area. So there was a threat that these practices could not be continued because of the rules and regulation that would be imposed by the protected areas. But with the support of the local government, the mayor of Chumnubri Rural Municipality is also present with us here, and Nima Lama sir, he's also here with us. So with his our technical support and with his leadership, we were able to have the Shagya Act passed in the rural municipality, which ensures that our practices are continued despite the protected area being there. Likewise, these efforts are also being made in the Tarai region of Nepal, where Tharu communities have Jevar Mainjan customary institutions, Badgar customary institutions, and we are working actively with the local government to ensure that these are also coming in the policies, and one of them has already been endorsed in the Saptakoshi municipality of Saptari district of Nepal. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sharana. And what I normally admire about Nepal is the integration of indigenous knowledge or indigenous people's languages into the curriculum. I think that is something that we normally would want to borrow from your country. And thank you so much. So I am going to Cindy from Indonesia.
Okay, thank you so much. So my name is Cindy. I am the member of the Youth Wings Organization of Aman. It's called BIPAN. So I will talk about what is the policy in Indonesia. Like if we talk about indigenous peoples in Indonesia, it is possessed like any other like rich traditional knowledge and also like holistic well-being system. But until now, the recognition of this knowledge system remain very limited and also is often marginalized by the development policies of the government that prioritize on the economic growth. But what we see now, like the policy trends show also little progress at the constitutional, national, and also the local levels through significant, of course, the significant challenge still remain. If we talk about the constitutional and also the constitution and also constitutional court ruling, we have like in the 1945 Constitution Articles 18B paragraph 2 and also Articles 28B in paragraph 3. There is like saying about the recognize of the indigenous peoples and also the traditional rights, and also in the constitutional court rulings 35 in 2012, there is like declare on the that are the customary forest is no longer the state forest. And if we talk about the national policies, we have the social forestry and customary forest. It is say that it is provide legal space for the indigenous community to manage their own territories using the local knowledge. And also we have the National Medium-Term Development Plan and National Human Rights Action Plan that acknowledge the role of the local wisdom in sustainable development. And we have the village law in 2014 allows that recognition of the desa adat or the customary village and integration of local knowledge into the development planning. And also we have the education that say that local content curriculum and brain supported research on traditional knowledge. We also have the intellectual property rights, the Directorate General Intellectual Property, inventories on traditional knowledge and also traditional cultural expression. And if we talk in the local level, local policies, we have the regional regulation or PERDA on indigenous peoples. We have in the several districts include the protection of the indigenous knowledge. And also we have local curriculum and traditional food programs. Some regions also already integrate the local knowledge into the schools and also the food security initiative. Yeah, and yeah, we see that Indonesia has made like progress in recognizing the indigenous people through like constitutional, national, and also local policies. However, further strategic steps are still required to ensure that the traditional knowledge and also the indigenous well-being indicators are not only recognized but also protected, promoted, and integrated into the national. Okay, I'm sorry, I forgot to say like if we talk about the national indicators of well-being, indigenous well-being in Indonesia, the indicators are dominated still by measure by economic measure like poverty, the Human Development Index, and also the health. But in Aman, the indigenous and also like we talk about the indigenous indicators, it covering the security of the customary territories, also the continuity of the language and also culture, and environmental health and the local food system, the spiritual and social harmony, and also like we believe that indigenous well-being indicators is more holistic than just the conventional economic indicators that the government the national indicators has. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Cindy, for that presentation. And it feels good that your country is very heavy in the constitution on having articles that are specific to protect indigenous people's rights. And of course, I feel that it's one country that also is very heavy in taking into consideration indigenous people's knowledge or traditional knowledge, as you put it. May I request now our professor from from Cameroon. We are coming back to Africa. So the question is, what is the state of recognition of indigenous people's rights in Cameroon?
Thank you so much. If my colleagues from Cameroon were not here, I will be very gladly accepting the title of professor, but they will talk in Cameroon and say I claim to be what I am not. So just to clarify, I'm not a professor. In Cameroon, as in many other countries in Central Africa, we have very similar policy position on indigenous people's rights, in the sense that we all the governments in Central Africa claim we are all indigenous, or they say, which is the same statement, we don't have indigenous here. We all belong to this land. The main reason is that they are afraid of opening a Pandora box and creating a two-level citizenship with a group of people, indigenous people, enjoying rights that are recognized by the international law, but that the government is not able to extend, well, financially able to extend to everybody else. And they know as soon as they start implementing a kind of two-steps policies favoring, I put this into bracket, indigenous people, they will have a lot of requests from the majority of the population asking to have the same treatment. So this is the reason why they tend to refrain from formally recognizing the existence of indigenous people on the land. This doesn't mean we don't have indigenous people. We have indigenous people. And when it comes to implementing, well, some development projects or some natural resources management projects, and having money from the World Bank or from other international donors involved, and having those donors requesting that their policies on indigenous people be implemented, then the government will recognize the presence of indigenous people. So they are in a very complex situation, and we can understand why they act like that. When I say understand, it means intellectual understanding, but we don't share it. We think if somebody deserves some rights, those rights have to be recognized and implemented. In Cameroon in 1996, we had a new constitution clearly stating that indigenous people's rights should be recognized and protected by the state. But the constitution failed to say who is indigenous. And this was a loophole that many people used to say, oh, we know we have to protect indigenous people, but we don't know who they are. So we need to have a definition of who they are, and we need to have a census of indigenous people in Cameroon. And the process started, and it got stuck somewhere and just disappeared. So to know who is indigenous people in Cameroon, we have to at least agree on who are indigenous people in Cameroon. We have to look at who is considered indigenous in the frame of development projects implemented by Cameroon with the funds of international donors. And this comes to three communities. Three in the forest, one in the savannah, as I was saying earlier. Our understanding is that the government has no problem with indigenous people. The only problem they have is that they don't know who they are. They don't know their culture. So indigenous people suffer less from the will of the government not to support them than to the misunderstanding of their culture and the type of actions that should be conducted to improve recognition and improve support to indigenous people. At the same time, they are recognized for their knowledge in many different topics. Everybody will tell you indigenous people know the forest better than everybody else. The loggers will go to them to say, please let us know what are the best species in the forest, tree species in the forest. What we call biodiversity prospectors will go to them to look for the best species with the highest economic potential, both for cosmetic and for medicinal plants. Politicians, not all of them, but some of them, will cross their cars in the forest at night, especially when the elections are coming or when major appointments are getting close. They go there to find luck, to find support, to keep their position or to improve their positions. And the football players also. So there is a very clear recognition of the fact that there is a unique knowledge in the forest or in the savannah, in the hands of forest indigenous people or pastoralists. But this is not turned into a wider recognition on what has to be done by the state to make sure that this culture doesn't disappear and to make sure that indigenous communities are fully integrated in the national community. So this is still a challenge, even if we see some improvements in the situation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now you said you're not professor, but allow me to call you professor for this panel. But thank you very much for your presentation, Samuel, and for raising the issue that we've been struggling with in the continent in terms of recognition of indigenous peoples. I think globally, this is the continent that, all the time, the first question that comes to us, even on the global stages, is who are indigenous people and why are you, like, for Africa, it's like we are all indigenous, which is, of course, misplaced. So I want to go to the next round of questions, but I request before I go to Mary Beth, who I know is joining, whom I know she'll be joining online, I want her to come last and just address the questions together. But I want to pass one more round of questions. Please, I know most of you have already actually responded to the question that I'm just about to ask, but I want to be a bit more specific to indigenous peoples-led research and education. What are your governments doing about this? What support are they offering to this? And what are the programming priorities, both short-term, medium-term, and probably long-term? So I would just want, I know for Kenya we have two of you, so I know one of you should maybe take that question and just address from a country level. So may I start with Sharana? What are your governments doing about this? What support are they offering to this? And what are the programming priorities, both short-term, medium-term, and probably long-term? So I would just want, I know for Kenya we have two of you, so I know
So on indigenous education specifically, so the government of Nepal also has the education policy, and according to which there is also the provision that all the local governments, they need to develop their own locally based curriculums, which is based on the local context and local environment of the specific area. For example, if there is, for example, for Rautamai Rural Municipality, which is one municipality in Udaipur district, there needs to be a locally based curriculum based on the environment, based on the climate and the culture of that place. Likewise, as I mentioned before, there is also provisions on mother tongue education but again, all of these are actually not implemented that well. For example, although the locally based curriculums exist in these municipalities, these are more broadly highlight the context of the rural municipality and are not specific to what indigenous communities, even within the different municipalities, there are different indigenous communities, and these are not specific to the indigenous communities that are living there. So for example, in Rautamai Rural Municipality, in one of the villages is comprised entirely of Sherpa populations, but there is no provision of Sherpa language, and because of which, while the students there are memorizing the name of animals and birds in the English language, at the same time they do not know a single word in their own mother tongue. Likewise, in another village where 90% of the communities are Magar indigenous communities, they do not know their indigenous food, although they know their language because most of them are from the Magar community, but all of their indigenous food systems, they are completely foreign to their own indigenous food practices and food systems, and there is increasing reliance on market-based foods. So although there are a few provisions within the policies of Nepal, but these have not been implemented that well and have not recognized the different unique identities of indigenous peoples. So along with that, I would like to add that while this has been the reality of the national context. CIPRED has been working really hard on indigenous-led research and education. So we have been working from the global to the national to the community level, actually. And in the global level, there has been a lot of discourse on indigenous curricula and indigenous-led research and education, and these have been translated in the national levels, and we have been successful in having the first indigenous study program in South Asia on the Masters on Indigenous-led Research and Education, and it has been going on for 3 years now, but it is being done by Kathmandu University, and for that we're collaborating with different universities across the globe and bringing the ground realities of indigenous peoples, advancing indigenous-led research and education, and at the same time at the community level we are sensitizing the local government, and already many local governments have also expressed their commitment towards having indigenous curricula in the schools, because we need to start from the ground level, and we cannot just have masters in indigenous education while the base of our education still comes from Western worldviews. So from the local level, from the very primary level, there have been efforts for indigenous curricula, and there is a need to further advance this and ensure that all schools have ensured that there is indigenous knowledge systems integrated into the curricula of all the schools in Nepal.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sharana. Cindy?
Okay, actually what happened in Indonesia is almost similar with what happened in Nepal. Like we also like what I already said before, like there is like what is the local content curriculum where they put it in the curriculum, but like it's not really being implemented like in all of the school in Indonesia, because like some part of that being like they put it in the curriculum, but some other parts is not really being implemented. That's why like in Aman, like we have what it is called the indigenous education. So like that's why like we are really putting on that, because like right now we have like 100 something like indigenous school around the Indonesia, and will be coming more because like we want to take the initiative, and we hope like the policies decision making can see it, and then they can adopt it in the education system that we has in Indonesia. And then but other than that, like in some district, in some places in Indonesia, there is the local policies that where the education system they put it in the actually in the curriculum, like it's happened in some area in Indonesia, but it's not like really what happened in the national level yet. But we hope it can go in there. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And we come back to Kenya, and I want to give one of you, or probably just a point from both of you about the priorities when it comes to indigenous people's research. How has that been promoted at our country level, and the education as well? We've heard about the curriculum. Do we have, do you think with time we are going to have the indigenous people's languages, for example, integrated into our curriculum? Because I know this is an area that we've been lagging behind.
Thank you so much. This is, I think, an area we don't have great achievements, but what I know for sure is that right now the government of Kenya is developing a national policy, a national research policy. It is in draft, and so we still have an opportunity now to ensure that we put an aspect of indigenous peoples in that policy, so that it serves us in the future. The country also has got a national research fund, and that is a fund that serves all researchers. It does not discriminate whether the research is on indigenous people or it is led by an indigenous person or not. And I think that's a plus for the country of Kenya because there is no discrimination on that. A professor in the university with a good research proposal can make an application, and if they are successful, they'll be funded to do that research. In the aspect of education, the government has a parastatal, which is an agency of government that is so concerned about education in the marginalized communities. And these are communities which areas where the marginalized or indigenous people live. So that is one aspect of government showing a lot of concern insofar as the education of the indigenous people is concerned. However, what I know is that there are challenges regarding funding for that because it has not been able to spread to many counties as expected. But yes, there are efforts by the government of Kenya to promote education of the children of the indigenous communities. The government also has sets aside monies for bursaries. These bursaries go to those marginalized or indigenous peoples because it is countrywide. So where they are, they also benefit. So we are treated not as special, but as part of the Kenyan community. And it gives a lot of joy that we are not discriminated insofar as that is concerned. And the other thing that is really important is the aspect of our culture. A lot of research is going into that, and the outcomes, I see the outcomes being taken up into programs. For example, now the government of Kenya through the Ministry of Culture is doing a lot of documentation on the same. That is what I can say for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner, I'm not sure the law you wanted to add, Honorable law you wanted to add a point, or that is sufficient for the country. Good, thank you. So back again to, I'm still tempted to call you professor. Probably you, probably I'm just prophesying that will be one in near future. So I know you talked about, the struggle in your country on recognition of indigenous peoples, but is there any effort to promote indigenous-led research and also education?
Good, thank you. So I'll take it. You are reading in the future for sure. And if you read something else, let me know, please. Talking about education, the government has been making efforts to promote primary school education because indigenous communities are more perceived as illiterate. So focus on primary school education, less focus on secondary school education, and I will say almost nothing on higher education and professional education. Talking about research, I can summarize the policy as no formal support, but no unnecessary restrictions. There are some restrictions, and we can understand why. Some few years ago, there was a research carried out by a university, foreign university, trying to understand why forest indigenous people were resistant to some of the diseases that were very fastly spreading in Cameroon and in Central Africa. So they were taking blood samples and flying them outside of the country for analysis, and nobody knew exactly what they were doing until the government found out and said, no more research of this kind, and no more research, basically, if they are not informed. They need to know. So social sciences will have no problem. Anything having to do with health could have to go through a lot of questions, but at the end of the day, they will be able to carry out the research. So no support, no formal support, but no unnecessary restriction, which is good for those carrying out research, but again, not enough, because there is a very clear need for support, and there is a clear need to have national universities and researchers being formally involved in the research carried out with indigenous communities.
Thank you very much, Samuel. And now I want to invite the panelist who is joining us online, who is Maribeth. I'm not sure that the tech team is able to connect her. She's there, I believe. Maribeth, are you there? From Michigan University. Okay, so I see her there. Okay. Hi, Maribeth, nice to see you there. And I request that you make your contribution to this conversation.
No, I'm standing in between all of you and tea time, chat time, everything. So first, I want to thank Alepa for hosting this event.
Maribeth, nice to see you there. And I request that you make your contribution to this conversation.
No, I'm saying, can you hear all of you and I want to make sure you can hear me. Is that correct? So first, I want to thank Alepa. Okay, I can hear myself. I want to just thank Alepa and the staff for putting on this conference and such a great job. Bonjour, Grand Rapids, Deutsch Via, Potawatomi, Nadal, también yo soy Chicana and of German descent. Also, I will work hard. I want to give a shout out to the interpreters. I know Septies out there. I will try not to speak too fast. When I speak English, I get excited. Well, I speak any language. When I get excited, I just speak fast in general. So first of all, I introduced my different families. I am both Potawatomi citizen, Potawatomi. You heard from my boss this morning, Dr. Kyle White. We're from the same tribe. And also I'm of German descent and I'm of Mexican. The reason my mom's family is from Mexico originally. The reason I introduce myself with multiple identities is that the policies in the US have often skewed that requiring us to only choose a identity, not being able to be fully of ourselves, which is not a way for us to live fully into our well-being if we have to choose. Second, I use Potawatomi, Spanish, and English. Just this year, in a policy and executive order passed by the President of the United States, I don't like to use his name, so I'll just refer to him as the President, creating an executive order that English is the official language of the United States. Before then, it was not the official language. We had no official language. By doing that, there's many consequences within that, but just a quick one is that it is not acknowledging all the different languages that are originally of the United States, of our indigenous languages. Also, too, one of the things, since I can't see you, you can be as honest as you want or not. How many people here today knew that there was at least indigenous peoples in the United States, that there's over 574 federally recognized tribes, plus that there's over 100 state and otherwise recognized tribes in the United States before today, or maybe yesterday? I can't see your reactions, so I have no idea. If you had no idea and you were like, you raised your hand and were like, yeah, I had no idea, or thinking that, or didn't want to admit that out loud, that's okay too. Most people don't know that we exist in the United States, and that is on purpose. Our government has done a very good job of trying to wipe us out of the history of that we are existing. We don't, the United States, as most of you know, on the national level, on the international level, doesn't tend to sign any kind of conventions or what, kilometers northwest of Seattle. So the Swimminish, there was an issue with there was an issue with people getting sick from the seafood because of all the pollution in the water. So like the clams and the oysters and things that they depend on. And so the idea would be for well-being, your physical well-being would be like, hey, just don't eat it. However, and a Swimminish elder said, you know what, if I know this is poison, my body, but this is the food that feeds my soul, my spirit. And I would rather feed my spirit, not indigenous, but she was working with the tribe in their health and research. And they got together and said, what is our well-being? How do we indicate our health? And from there, they, because I mean, obviously people are gonna have there's these toxins in the seafood, and people would rather eat the toxins than not have the issue, and then to avoid them. So I know that I've seen the time really quick, so I'm trying to go really quick through the story. So it's not just a physical health, but it's also community, cultural, and mental health. And so what they decided is they did some research. And then eating less seafood physically, research would say yes, which just mentioned, but actually it's detrimental. It's not good to the Swimminish people as their concept of health. So instead, when they look at concepts of health, they're looking at food security, ceremonial use, knowledge transmission, goes back to that language, speaking the language and talking about their relatives and the seafood or the fish. It goes back to teaching the youth how to prepare, how to harvest, continuing those language, those stories. It creates community cohesion. And so with that, without having that, it also doesn't allow, so this is why it's important. These shellfish can create this important thing. So what policies can they create? What ways can they find to allow for safe seafood and to not be toxic? And also too, how can they continue to harvest? That's another issue that we see in the United States, is not being able to harvest food, particularly up in Alaska, the Alaska Natives. And luckily, just recently, one of the federal courts in the US blocked the state of Alaska from not allowing Alaska Natives to fish, and they call it subsistence food hunting up there, or subsistence living, and allowing them to live their life ways, to be in relationship with those relatives on the land for their health. And so I know that I'm going fast. Also, I want to say another thing about the Swimminish is that they were the first tribe in the United States to come up with a climate change plan. And they did that once again through the community-based research, talking with elders, with youth, what actually brings us well-being, what is important to us. And already talking a bit about that culture, that food security. They created visuals with it. And in addition to serving their community with this, it also built new knowledge for all people about the relationships between health, culture, and climate. And so right now, things that we're facing in the United States, I could count a lot. I could be here forever. I'm not going to go into everything because it's constantly changing. But I do want to say that there has been the issues of the funding of grants, the lack of recognition of self-determination again. These aren't really new, it's just more in your face currently. Things that people weren't expecting are happening, I would say. Like the defunding of the grants was a big one right away. Not taking climate change seriously. But I also want to go back to this whole idea of, yes, there's a lot of negatives, and I don't want to downplay that. There's a lot of obstacles, but I think of Secretary General Ruka from Amman, and when the election happened, I remember her saying something that we will out alone, that we will face these obstacles and we will rise above them, and we will find the best way to create health and whatnot. Like I said, won't be easy. There's a lot there, but I'm hoping that the youth who were just on the panel before this will able to point back and be like, look, we saw the turning point. Basically, I'm hoping that you'll be like, oh, they were good ancestors or good elders. So I'm putting in a plug for those of us who are on the older side, not elder status, but that also, and then we can look back and we can look at that generation and the generation, my child's generation, and the children who are yet to be born, and say, yes, you were speaking your language. Yes, you were learning our ways, our education. You understand our seasonal, in the US we call it our seasonal calendar. Here up in Michigan where I'm at, Oh, I forgot to also mention I'm part of the Pact Secretariat. I'm one of the leads there. Anyways, before I get cut off, and it's great because I can't see anybody or hear anything, so you all could have cut me off by now, and I have no idea. So, anyways, I just want to say that in the future, I'd love to see you dreaming that we're here together, that people like Sharana and Cindy are running this, and being like, oh, and then back in the day when Kim and Alepa had this conference, and we're here, and this is what we're seeing, and people speak the language, and the thing, education and whatnot, and education, our kids understand the ways, our ways, and harvesting, and back on our lands, eating our foods. That's my dream, is that we will, when those who are on the youth panel are older, are able to say something back to the generations to come. So, Miigwech, Ashe for letting me jump in here. Sorry again for talking really fast, but yes, enjoy your day. I'm just gonna take that deep breath. I'm here on my home, my Potawatomi homelands, for those of you on the Maasai lands right now. And once again, huge shout out to Alepa for all the work that they have done to make this happen.
Thank you very much, Maribeth. That was powerful. Thank you so much for your presentation, and thank you for going further to the specific indicators of well-being, which speaks to our, the concept of good life that Professor Kyle talked about this morning, the physical health, the mental health, and of course, the need for the knowledge transmission, especially when it comes to our languages. So I know you said you're not seeing all of us, but I want to report that we were all smiling when you're making your presentation, and we don't want to talk about Mr. President, but yes, it's really amazing to have you speak to us this afternoon. Thank you so much. So before I release this team, I want to request if there's anyone with a question, maybe I'll only do about 2 questions, unfortunately, because I see it's only 6 minutes to 6 p.m. and it will not be good to go beyond this. So may I open up this for 2 questions? I wish if Maribeth can stay around, just in case there's a question that is directed to you. So any question to the panelists here? I see, wow, now this is hard. I see about 4 questions. And I request that we be as brief as possible. 1 question, straight to the point. Mr. Kimaren said that we are also teaching ourselves. Most of the time, we find ourselves, the mics getting disconnected when you have not delivered, the very best point that you thought you'll deliver. So I request that we go straight to the point, a minute per person. Kimayo, just 2, oil. So how am I supposed to select the 2 out of the 4? Kimaren, you're putting me into trouble? Okay, so 2 only, but I request that I give each one of you 1 minute, the 4 of you. 1 minute. If you go beyond that, I'm sorry that I'll have to disconnect. I don't know whether I have the power to disconnect the mic. Kimayo, very fast. Jonathan, please give him the mic.
Thank you for this chance. So my question goes straight to Lowoi. So the things that we discuss here is about identity. How will you do in your office at your capacity, at least to see that some of us, like Sengwer, who doesn't have identity code of our own, so that we decolonize the names that were said here. What will you do? Thanks.
Thank you, Honorable Loi, on the identity code. Dr. Elena Shuru, or I saw another hand right there. Yes, kindly give to the sister right there.
Mine actually is not a comment. I'm just like asking, I've listened to everybody, and language is a very pertinent issue that we've all looked down upon. I think it's time that we come up with strategies of how to bring back our languages even at our levels, because we are not stupid, our children are not stupid, but we use the wrong language of instruction at the early age. So I think it's a challenge to all of us. Yeah. Go back to TKK. that we used, and I think we'll be good to go. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's a challenge to all of us.
Very briefly, comment. Generally, our government is very poor in funding research. And that's why you find a colleague of ours there is taking 5 years. Most of our research is from actually our own pocket. So is there a way we can intervene for government to do more allocation to funding? Number two, how do we intervene industry and foundations? Because developed nations, they actually get money to universities so that they do research to solve certain societal issues. Finally, CBC curriculum has something heavy on tradition. Could that provide an opportunity in future for IP-led research, given the CBC's strong issues on culture? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Those are questions to the Kenyan government representatives here. One last question that was right there. So, Faith, you're the last one. Please go straight to the question.
Okay, mine is to the question on how we can intermarry between research of the indigenous people and data, because it is actually the one that serves the people's needs, so that we stop talking about specific Nepal. We do a joint thing in terms of indigenous people.
Thank you so much. I think the question, there were more of comments, I believe, apart from the question that was directed to the Kenyan government representatives here. And I request Honorable Oi to respond to that.
Thank you very much. I'll go straight to the question raised by Kimayo. On issues of identity, as I said, we were doing mapping and identification. And last week, my team was with the Sangwer of Embobut celebrating their culture. The head of public service is in the process of forming a multi-sectoral team led by the State Department of Citizen Services that we are going to use only 2 months to give codes of recognition to all the communities that are going to meet the criterion of identification, because in the country we have those already known communities, but we have others that are purporting to be the communities, detaching themselves from the majority community. So we are working on recognition, and that will come soon before we celebrate our International Minority Rights Day. And this is maybe an announcement to all of us. The government gave all the marginalized and minority communities a day, 18th December, which is a UN day to celebrate each year. We have done twice an International Day for that case. So I think that was the question on issues of research. The president created a State Department for Research, and currently they are working on a policy on how to fund research. And you know, on the CBC, the STEM, the government wants to make sure that the indigenous knowledge is inculcated from the lower levels coming up. So there are things that are coming up, and we have the institute, you know, the Genetics Institute. There's a policy that was passed in 2005 about the indigenous knowledge and traditions. So all this is just being coordinated in my office so that we can bring it to light. We have quite a number of policies that were approved without our knowledge. Some are marginalizing us further that need some amendments, but others are good for us. They are just not been informed to us.
Thank you. Thank you very much, panelists, for sharing your experiences, your wisdom with us. We truly appreciate you for that. Please let's appreciate this panel, including the online panelists, Madam Maribeth. Thank you so much for all your contributions. Thank you.
Wow, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry again, you know, we thought it will be 30 minutes, it's over an hour. Guilty as charged. Can we appreciate all the moderators for the day? Thank you very much. The keynote addresses. Appreciate the keynote addresses. And all the panelists, let's appreciate them for the energy, the insights they bring. Can we appreciate the plenary people who sat patiently listening and absorbing, not taking tea break? And don't appreciate Oleria Mead for keeping you until 6, okay? But thank you so much. We hope, despite the fatigue, it was worth the while, we hope. And it went that way because, of course, of the dense knowledge and resource available here. Of course, if I continue beyond 2 minutes, nobody will listen to me. There is a belated tea outside. I'm not sure whether I should be the one saying, or the logistics team will announce some few things. Tomorrow, hopefully, will be a light day. We have 2 sessions, one on the practical dimension of uptake of indigenous knowledge. What is happening, particularly in the conservation sector and the carbon markets? What is happening? Is there a collaborative? Is there a resonance between the practice and the policies that we have had today? We will look at that. And then, importantly, the second big session is on finance. What are the trends in accessing resources towards, channeling resources towards indigenous-led research and education? And finally, the afternoon session, we will reflect on practical, pragmatic, concrete, actionable takeaways. What are we going to do? You had in the Mentimeter, people kept saying, what is next? Okay? So that we do not have to discuss here for 2 or so days. So there will be a reflection, and then there will be a cocktail. Maybe that is more interesting than the sessions. So there will be a cocktail in the evening, and the third day we had said is going to be a community day. We are no longer whining. We want to take you to a landscape where we have exercised a bit of what we have learned, and quite a bit of things from the community themselves, slaughtering bulls, as I had said, and many more learning. Please don't miss the third day, because it's going to be very practical. James?